right, my friend, welcome back to episode 8 of the Never Better Pod. I'm going to call it 8.5 because of the last episode last week. How the heck are you?
I'm good, man. And some unfortunate technical issues on the last one with you being in Mexico, and I switched rooms here, and maybe that impacted it, but we're now back in business.
Yes. So silver lining, 1, because I'm lazy, 2, because I really want to show off that amazing Mexico background. I'm just going to chop it up and put the usable parts into this episode. So the long sections where I talk about my fitness plan and stuff, that's going to be original Mexico content. You'll probably be able to tell because the audio will sound worse.
I think that's a great idea because, yeah, you're at the very least, your background was great. Plus, you were wearing your little tank top thing, so you're showing off your arms a bit.
Yeah, man. So I'm going to give you a little bit of an intro about the mental health benefits of why I work out and why everyone works out. While physical fitness often gets tied to my vanity, aesthetics, or performance goals, for me, it's primarily about mental health. Exercise is one of the most powerful tools I've found to manage stress, improve my mood, and to stay grounded. Research shows that physical activity boosts endorphins, those feel-good chemicals that help reduce stress and anxiety. And beyond that, it also enhances focus, helps with sleep quality, and can even alleviate symptoms of depression. And I've experienced all of these benefits firsthand. For example, when I'm feeling overwhelmed or stuck, a workout can completely reset my mindset. It's like hitting a mental reset button. The process of pushing through a tough session or simply getting my body moving gives me clarity and a sense of accomplishment even on difficult days. The mental health benefits of fitness are why I stay consistent, or try to stay consistent anyways. Sure, building strength or hitting a fitness milestone is great, but the real win for me is how it makes me feel mentally. It's about showing up for myself every day, not to look a certain way, but to feel my best, and looking a certain way is a huge benefit. I'll be honest. Yeah, amazing. So the science behind exercising and its benefits for mental health. Endless. Exercise increases the production of brain-derived neurotropic factors, BDNF, which support brain health and can even improve memory and cognitive function. This is one of the reasons I've incorporated consistent movement into my daily routine. Additionally, exercise has been shown to regulate stress hormones like cortisol. When life gets chaotic, working out is the best way for me to manage that stress response. Even something as simple as a brisk walk, like I was walking all up and down the beach in Mexico last week. I got my 15,000 steps a day, calmed the nervous system, kept me grounded. Let's not forget about the community aspect. Whether it's working out with a friend, joining a class, or being part of an online fitness group, the social connection we build through fitness can be incredibly uplifting. For me, fitness isn't just a solitary activity. Golf, soccer, you name it. It's a way to connect with others who share similar goals and values. That's like your book club, but all the benefits of fitness too.
Totally, man. Definitely, it's one of the things that I miss the most about, as I've talked about before, my sort of inability to do a lot of the physical stuff that I was able to do before my illness. But that social aspect is a massive part. I actually chatted on the phone last night. The manager for my soccer team gave me a call, which is really nice. He checks in every now and again to see how I'm doing. And obviously he's in the phase right now where he's planning the move from the indoor season to the outdoor season. So trying to see who's can continue, who's got injuries and isn't going to be able to play and all that kind of stuff. So we had a really nice chat yesterday, and I was saying to him, sure, yeah, I miss playing soccer massively. I always loved it. That's been a bit of a mental escape for me. No matter what's troubling you in your life, you got a ball at your feet, you're kicking around with a buddy, whatever. And all of that stress just fades away into the background, at least for that time being. And but I was saying to him, the other aspect is then just that time with the boys, right? It was a guaranteed thing. Every week I knew I would show up to a game and would chat when you're sitting on the sidelines, chat during warm up, sit and maybe have a beer after the game, or not have a beer if you don't want to. But just shooting the shit is it's so good. I think it's an often overlooked thing with sports. It's also one of the things that I think about has been most beneficial in terms of my development as a human being, as a child playing youth sports, is you learn so much socially how to interact with people and cooperate and work with other people. All of those things are just good for your mental health in general. So I'm glad that you mentioned that community piece, because I don't think it often gets talked about in terms of being lumped into that physical fitness category.
Yeah, dude. It's my first soccer practice back after 2 weeks in Mexico. I'm really stoked to see the boys. And we got a cup game this weekend against the coveted Saggers, that Portuguese team I've mentioned in this podcast before. So should be fun.
Nice.
Oh yeah. So yesterday I got back from Mexico. That was going from 30 degrees in the sun to, so despite the weather being amazing here in Victoria, it's cold as fuck. It's like, it was -1 when I got in. It's like only 1 today. So I may be wearing my fleece sweater, but in an effort to not give up on vacation, I've got my, I particularly wanted to wear these two because I ordered these from Mexico and they arrived 2 days after I left. So shout out to Meller from Barcelona. Recheck your shipping policy, guys. Nah, these are super cool, polarized, great deal. Hashtag Meller, link in bio.
Nice. I like the little strap you have for him too. I used to have one, but I lost mine.
Dude, you should check out the website. They have like 100 different chain varieties that you can choose from.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Okay, so now I'm going to go over the structure of my physical fitness routine, and this is where I'll link into Mexico. Hola, amigo. Buenos dias.
Yeah.
Come to Puerto Vallarta.
Oh man, beautiful.
Really low railing here, and it's a direct vertical drop down 11 stories. And they say that as you get older, you don't become more scared of heights. You become more scared that you're going to jump. And holy fuck, do I resonate with that. Like, it's really creepy. And like, I'll look over the edge, and then in my mind, I'll visualize all the different ways in which I hurl myself off the fucking rail. And then I envision the feeling and the panic that I would experience in those moments. And like, I think about all sorts of things. Like, do you pass out instantly? Do you travel the whole way? Like, what would the onlooker down below think as my head smashes off the edge of the, oh God. Oh God. Okay.
Dude, talk about invasive. Holy
you know how viral our podcast would go right now if I did that? That is the ultimate taking one for the team, for the homies, man. I'll just set you up for life. You'll infamy.
Oh my gosh, That's insanity. Please don't do that.
Today's episode is all about physical fitness, and I threw in a fun little segment at the end where it's going to be physical fitness while on vacation. I'll give you a glimpse into what I've been doing to maintain the pipes over the last few days.
Amazing. I'm very excited for this one because as discussed in last week's episode and previously throughout the rest of the episodes of the season, as I've had these health issues that I've been dealing with that have made like physical fitness a real challenge for me. So I'm really hoping, and I hope this doesn't put too much pressure on you, but I'm really hoping this will be the change in trajectory for me, and I'll be motivated and inspired to get back at it. So take it away.
Amazing, man. Well, I'll definitely do my best with all that pressure. I'm trying to simplify it as much as possible. And though this is specific to me and what I do, it's all supported with science, and you'll find this commonality amongst any fitness people when they're giving you advice. And yeah, honestly, the first place to start, 100%, the most important thing, no matter where your goals are, whether that's fat loss, muscle gain, maintenance, is strength training. There's no doubt about it. It's the foundation of any good fitness plan. Me personally, I aim for 3 to 5 days a week of strength training. And most of the time that's 3, I'll be honest. And on the odd week when it's only 2, I still think I'm covering my bases. And it doesn't need to be these 2 hours in the gym, these crazy lengthy sessions. Set yourself a goal of maybe a 15-minute warm up and then 15 minutes of active work in the gym. In addition to strength training, we're not just willy-nilly lifting weights, but really easily, we're going to focus on form first. So pick up, honestly, the lightest weight that you can do the repetitions with good form. Obviously, this is assuming that you know what good form is. So maybe to get to that point, we're doing a little bit of research. We're watching some YouTube videos on the basic compound lift movements, or we're asking someone at the gym, and then we're starting on perfecting form. And once we've got the form down pat, so if you're a guy like me and you just started in the gym, you're probably going to be like military pressing like 30-pound dumbbells in each arm to start. So you start that, you get perfect form, you do your reps, and then each week after that, or each session after that, you're doing progressive overload. So that's either increasing the loads or the rep ranges for each set, and that's how you build muscle.
If I can jump in for a second, I do. I like that transition for you. This like obviously science and experience based shift in what I remember our initial gym sessions were like up in the Riv, where you were just pumping yourself full of like double the daily dose of whatever you could get your hands on to get as big as possible, and just grinding through with shaky form, like different lifts and stuff. And it's a noticeable difference to obviously like your health and physique now, having learned through those mistakes, to focus on form first. So that is some good advice, and to me proves your like experience in this area.
Dude, I'm so glad you said that. You nailed it. So maybe by publishing things like this, I could save someone from making the years of mistakes in the gym that I did.
Yeah, I always see those as posts, right? It's like don't make these mistakes. These mistakes I did start here. That's yeah.
Yeah, it's just more like wasted time. You could get way better physique or way better fitness goal quicker if you just started slower and did things properly. Like, yeah, you nailed it, man. I was buying like mass gainer shakes and drinking those in quantities, picking up the heaviest weights I could and grinding out reps and getting injuries, getting stretch marks, getting fat. Eventually,
Yeah.
fast forward 15 years, like it built me some muscles, but start off slow and progressively build from there, and you'll have so much more success with so much less pain, and you'll probably enjoy going to the gym more. Yeah, so obviously there's a million different exercises you can do in the gym. Every fitness influencer on Instagram will show you this new variation, and honestly, in my opinion, they 100% overcomplicate things. If you were really someone that was concerned with the gym being too complicated, if you were to reduce your regime down to compound lifts only, you would see incredible results while basically only doing 4 exercises. So when I go to the gym and I focus on my compound movements, that 3 to 5 days per week, 15-minute warm up, 45-minute working session for my squats, my main leg compound lift, I do 4 sets of 8 to 10 reps. For me, that's like around 225, 250 pounds. It took me a long time to get up to that point, and that's still not all that heavy. Deadlifts, a bit of a lower rep range. If I could only pick one exercise to do for the rest of my life for overall health, it honestly might be this one. Deadlifts are super intimidating for new lifters. But if you start with good form and you start with lightweight, you can't hurt yourself. I love it because it recruits all the muscles in the body. It's legs, it's back, it's all of your branch chain muscles working together. Awesome. There's all kinds of crazy stuff about how deadlifting regrows neurons. Actually, it's not necessarily, apparently you can't really regrow neurons after all, but you can increase the plasticity of the neurons so you can grow them and change. Yeah. The compound lifts, because they recruit multiple muscle groups, they maximize the body's hormonal response. So it triggers testosterone production and growth hormone. So that's why they're so effective. Yeah, I truly believe if you were only to do one thing, strength training, no matter what your goals are, even if your goals are weight loss, strength training is a better first starting point than cardio. However, reluctantly, I'm going to say that if you really want to maintain your physical fitness the best, you have to prioritize cardiovascular fitness as well. But I do so much less of that than weight training, and I'm finding I'm still having significant results. So I split my cardio up between 2 groups, like everyone does, basically. There's low intensity cardio and there's high intensity interval training. And the acronym HIIT. So zone 2 is like what I've been doing this whole Mexico trip, is slow, casual walks, but sometimes of great distances. I haven't got under 15,000 steps yet this trip. So lots of low intensity cardio. Beach walk, honestly, like with the weight of the sand, have been amazing. And then there's high intensity interval training. So soccer is an amazing example of that. It's like, that, Dev, bouts of sprinting. And then especially me in center back, sometimes I get to chill and relax for like 5 minutes until the play comes back. Haven't been doing any high intensity training this Mexico trip, except for the odd sprint up the stairs. But also, if you want to integrate a high intensity workout, a good kind of split is sprint for 30 seconds, like doing this on the beach would be amazing. Sprint for 30 seconds, walk or rest for 1 to 2 minutes, and then repeat that 6 to 8 times. That's a high intensity interval training cardiovascular exercise. It's efficient, and it's a game changer when you're short on time. Who has an hour to mindlessly run on the treadmill or the elliptical? Not me. And I don't think it is all that beneficial.
Yeah, well, as you say, it's just a less efficient way of doing things.
Yeah. And cardiovascular training, for the most part, it's not building your muscles. And when you're doing strength training and building your muscles, it's causing your body to recruit more calories on an ongoing basis, and it compounds and exponentially increases your fitness. It's okay. So we've got weight training out of the way, we've got cardio out of the way, and then after that, the next kind of pillar of physical fitness is recovery and sleep. So as I've mentioned a lot, I really struggle with my sleep. but I always leave myself like a big sleeping window, 11 hours. And some other good things are turning off the screens at least an hour before bed, making sure you take in that right kind of light first thing in the morning to get your circadian rhythm started, and all sorts of things like that. One thing that I haven't got into for recovery, but kind of want to eventually, especially for after those deadlifts, would be cold exposure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's just I just gotta force myself to do it. I don't have a cold tub or anything, but probably in the
Yeah.
morning. Yeah.
The thing is, I think to do it, you have to do it right. And if you don't have a setup, it can be a little bit difficult or annoying. When I went back to playing soccer regularly after a chunk of time off, I tore my Achilles and slowly kind of reintegrated into playing again, and then moved back to Kelowna, and then started playing regularly. I found getting my body used to that like high intensity training again. Like my muscles were so sore, I'd like limp for days afterwards, was in so much pain, and to the point where actually it was kind of funny. I was thinking about doing it anyway, but when the referees for one of our game was a physio, and he came over after the game, and we're a bunch of over 35 guys, right? And he said something along the lines like, "Oh, how are you all feeling?" or whatever. And I said to him, like, "What do I do if everything hurts?" And he said, "Ice bath." So after that point, I would just go like drive back home after a game, either pick up a couple bags of ice, or at that point I was still drinking beer, so you could go to the liquor store, get like a 6-pack, and they give you a free bag of ice. Run a super cold bath, dump the ice in, and sit in it for I don't know, I'd do like 20 minutes or something. Mm-hmm. And it did actually, like from experience, made a significant difference in terms of that recovery and avoiding that pain. I don't know the exact science behind it, whether it helps to flush some of that lactic acid, or obviously if you hurt yourself, that's essentially when you're pushing your muscles that hard, you're straining them, you put ice on it. So that makes sense from that aspect. Yeah, I would say finding a way to get that set up, whether it's a cheap garbage bin that you dump ice in cold water or whatever, it does make a huge difference to that recovery. Do you know what I want to do is, and I might be giving away a bit of a cheat code, but there's a few places here in Kelowna that have these semi like off-grid spa recovery type things, where maybe they've got an infrared sauna and some ice baths, and they use those like metal feed troughs.
Yeah, dude.
You can pick one of those up like pretty affordably, and at some point I want to set one up here at my parents' place, because they've got the pool, and I want to kind of round it out with a few more fun things to make it a bit more of like a spa like experience, and having that ice bath is one of the key things.
Awesome, man. And now that I think about it, I'm back when I was like 15 playing the highest level of soccer I've ever played, like youth soccer. Our select coaches would always force us to make an ice bath into one of the hotel rooms that we were staying at for an away game, and then like basically force every guy to obviously get in there in his shorts. And yeah, right.
Like post game, because you've got another game like the next day or later that afternoon or whatever. Yeah, cool.
Exactly. Yeah. So he was ahead of the curve. Now it's obviously super trendy and everyone's talking about it, but must be it. I think it like creates a hormone response as well in a positive way.
Yeah, must do. I hate cold water, so for me to actually do it says a lot.
The pool on the roof here is ambient temperature, so it's ice cold, but there's a pool down below that's a little nicer.
Nice.
Okay, so strength training, cardio, recovery, and sleep. And kind of the best thing to remember is recovery isn't downtime. It's part of the process. So just like how you have to lift weights to build the muscle, you have to rest to grow the muscle. If you're not prioritizing it, you're missing out on all the progress that you worked hard for in the gym. And you don't need to take a totally do nothing rest day. You can have active rest days. Yoga, stretching, keeps the blood flowing, reduces the muscle soreness, and doesn't add any additional stress to the body. Okay. Next up, kind of my favorite part, and straight up the hardest part, I would say. If you think that forcing yourself to go to the gym is hard, wait until you really look at prioritizing your nutrition and supplementation. There's all kinds of these like stereotypical statements like abs are built in the kitchen, but nutrition, super, super important. So to simplify it, to kind of make it easy, to whatever. Protein, most important for muscles. I set myself a goal of 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. So I'm 185 pounds right now. I'm kind of proud of that. I have 185 grams or more every day when I'm at home. I cheat and I get 50 to 75 grams of that through a protein shake because, I don't know, it guarantees I'm going to hit it. And then my 3 meals a day after that. So that's a good metric. Anyone can know how much protein they need. Definitely aim to have at least 30 grams of protein in every main meal you eat throughout the day, and then supplement it with shakes or snacks outside of that. Protein. Okay, next up, hydration and electrolytes. Hydration and electrolytes specifically is something that I've been lacking on forever until I recently started doing it and instantly saw the effects. It's crazy. So bananas, salt in my water, low sugar electrolyte drinks, things like that. It increases my energy. It makes my muscles fatigue way slower. Just energizes me. Hydration, electrolytes keep moving you through the workout, help you recover.
Have you ever had that feeling when you drink water that it doesn't actually quench your thirst? Like it doesn't feel like it's absorbing very well? That I think is the electrolytes. I ended up in a situation one time when I was playing soccer and I ended up actually having a lung infection that I didn't know about, but I ended up in the hospital because I was feeling really unwell and I thought it was heat stroke. And because I was just continually drinking water. The doctor explained it at the time. They was like, oh, okay, well, yes, you were drinking too much water, so you've actually like lowered the concentration of the electrolytes in your system. Like you need to have those sugars and whatever in your body. So by forcing myself to drink more and more water because I was feeling like I had potential heat stroke issues, all I was doing was diluting that stuff even more. So I was kind of making the situation worse by drinking water, which is weird. But then also, I found out I had a lung infection, which wasn't helpful. But have you tried those? I think the brand's called Noon, the like little tablets.
Dude, the first time I tried those, and that kind of fell in line with my eureka moment of the importance of electrolytes, was when your wife Sarah made us those Go kits for our golf trip, and those tablets were covered in there. And then I had one like before my workout, like a week after. Then I started religiously having them before every soccer game. Before every soccer game, I stopped getting cramps, and before the gym session, I just felt like I was getting a better pump. Apparently, if you're even dehydrated by 2%, it affects physical performance. And I see the proof in the pudding, man. You cannot push as much weight if you're dehydrated.
Yeah, man. I think it's one of the things that I've heard before from, I can't remember where I picked it up, but basically that a lot of the issues that people end up coming into the hospital for, that they find that pretty much almost every single person is dehydrated. But I think it's a big thing when I think back on my life, especially when we were like in our 20s and drinking a lot and whatever.
Dude.
I was like, I'm pretty sure I was dehydrated 100% of the time. Like, I don't think I was ever fully hydrated. It's a huge, huge thing. And some of the ways I like this kind of trend with, everybody has their big thing of water and they're drinking water all the time. But as I mentioned, that's part of the problem. The other thing is those electrolytes, which are super key. And I've noticed a massive difference. There were times where I would wake up with like leg cramps in the middle of the night and that sort of thing. And then I remember my mom mentioned that my dad was experiencing that as well. And I mentioned those Noon tablets and he started trying those and it resolved that issue as well. So electrolytes are super important.
Big time. That's super cool. Protein, hydration, electrolytes, and my favorite supplement of all times, also one of the most heavily researched supplements of all times. Like there's endless data on creatine. Yeah, don't get duped into the million different varieties you'll find at the health shop. All you need is creatine monohydrate, the most simple one single ingredient. Take 5 grams a day. It's kind of like a miracle drug. Not only does it help strength and recovery, there's so much science behind how it improves neurology, brain health, cognitive function. Yeah.
Interesting. That's something I would definitely like to learn more about. I remember when I was in high school and I was playing high level soccer, there were times where, and as I still kind of am, but I was a bit of a lighter build, like skinnier kind of guy. And I remember it reached a point where I felt like I was kind of lacking something and compared to some of the other players on my team. And I had a conversation with my parents at the time about creatine because I noticed like some of those guys that were bigger, stronger, faster, whatever, they were taking creatine regularly. And I didn't know anything at the time. So I asked my parents about it. And they, at the time, decided that they didn't think it was a good idea. But that was a long time ago now. So maybe that your research and information wasn't there. But I don't know much about it. I've heard anecdotally some things about what it does. So that more concrete information. And as you say, there are studies and stuff behind it. I'm definitely interested in learning more and understanding the benefits.
Dude, I'm stoked to hear that. And it's funny that you mentioned considering it in high school, because I had a similar story. High school rugby, our coach was like, who you might derogatorily refer to as a juice head looking guy, was one on the rugby team to go start taking creatine now. And like, he was referencing the cognitive function improvement, referencing the muscles, everything. And we were like so turned off by it. Did a couple Google searches about like, it makes you go bald, it'll shrink your balls or something like that. But so much misinformation and just not true. Don't take my word for it. Go do some research, because it is the most heavily researched supplement out there. Science will tell you, and you can make an informed choice for yourself. But I want to go as far as to say, I think everyone should be taking it, no matter what your fitness goals are.
Yeah. I think at the time I was a little put off by the idea of remember people saying like, oh, make sure you drink a bunch of water, because it basically like forces water into your muscles or something like that. And, yeah, as I say, I haven't really done that much research, and we'll definitely jump back into it again.
Yeah, it holds water in your muscles, but that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay. Yeah. And with the nutrition, with the getting the 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight every day, with the 5 grams of creatine every day, with the hitting the right nutrition. So there's so many calculators online. You can type in your age, weight, activity level. It'll tell you exactly how many calories to consume for maintenance. And then based on your goals, you can adjust those. You can adjust it by a lot, a little, depending on how quickly you want to lose, how quickly you want to gain. If the numbers that you crunch right away aren't having that result, then adjust. Lots of great apps out there to track. And I don't necessarily want to suggest everyone goes to start crunching the numbers on their macronutrients and their daily calories. That's kind of a little extreme. If you were to do that, that is how you find results fast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's some key kind of disclaimers to go along with that. Obviously, I have experienced secondhand issues like eating disorders and body dysmorphia and stuff like that, and how that, counting macros or counting calories can have a negative mental health impact. But on the opposite side of that spectrum, I would say I was somebody who hasn't been super well educated in nutrition and, grew up with that, oh, you're 5 different food groups, make sure you have a healthy balance kind of thing. But at one point did actually start kind of counting the macros to understand what I was consuming, which is just good, obviously, to understand, like, are you providing enough nutrients and things for your body? Yeah. And for me to understand that I was way off from the suggested protein amounts, like I was having way more carbohydrates than I realized, and the kind of balance of my intake was quite off, and that kind of triggered a bit of a shift in my thinking. And I'm not somebody who tracks things on a regular basis, but I would suggest at the very least understanding what you're currently doing and knowing where there might be deficiencies. Obviously, that's just being healthy and understanding what you're putting into your body and how that if you're fulfilling the needs of your body, right? And then you can make an educated decision from there. I don't think it's something that you necessarily have to like do every day for every meal for the rest of your life, but you should educate yourself on what are, healthy eating habits, essentially.
That's a really great point. I only track my full daily calories and macronutrient breakdown for a small period of time. And then you kind of get reference points as to what you're supposed to be eating daily, and you can transition into intuitive eating. But yeah, you said it exactly right. It's good to kind of empower yourself with that knowledge, and not to be insensitive about eating disorders that I don't really that I can't relate to, except for the body dysmorphia that you develop after you start gaining muscle.
Yeah, totally. As I say, I think it's just an important disclaimer. It's a tricky one. I would just be aware if you're treading down that path. It's something to just be aware of.
Like anything that we talk about, this is bro science. We're armchair experts. Take everything with a grain of salt. We're sharing our experiences, but you got to go do the research and do what's right for you. Good. Onwards. So I'm going to summarize where we're at and then finish off with a special segment on staying fit while on vacation. So to recap, we're strength training 3 to 5 times per week, and we're focusing on progressive overload. If that's only 2 times a week, it's great. 2, we're combining low intensity cardio with high intensity cardio for endurance and efficiency. We're prioritizing recovery through sleep and active rest maybe cold exposure if you get there. I might get there soon. Fuel your body with protein, water, and supplements like creatine to support your efforts. Okay, staying fit while on vacation. So no joke, I've done this every day since I got here. I'll share my little routine after this. So when on vacation, keep it simple. Don't aim for perfection, like long walks on the beach, swimming. They've been my go-to. Make sure you pack like something workout appropriate just in case the moment strikes to go and get some workout in. And then you might have a gym where you're at. I don't. So body weight workouts. My workout routine here has been 20 sit-ups, 20 push-ups, and then 20 pull-ups off the edge of the roof here. And then I rest for 2 minutes, and then I do 4 sets of that. So that takes me 20 minutes, and I just do it in the morning. And it reminds my muscles that they still have a use and that we're going to get back to the gym when I'm home.
Mm-hmm.
It's been good. I think those endorphins probably go a long way too. Yeah. Full disclaimer, Anthony picked up the booze again on his vacation. So getting a little workout in is helping me offset. I wouldn't say the guilt of that, but yeah, just making me feel better and feeling healthy.
Yeah, for sure, man. The thing for me, whenever we go on vacation, is we end up walking a lot. And I think that's what you want to do when you're somewhere different from your everyday life, right? Maybe instead of hopping in that Uber or whatever, make the decision to walk there, experience a different place. And that's going to be that, like you were talking about, that zone 2 exercise, which is, my doctor explained it to me. I was thinking about it from, because there was a while there I was very much tracking my heart rate and stuff. But if you don't have a smartwatch or whatever, you're just on vacation, you're walking around, that key with zone 2 exercises, you want to make sure you can maintain a conversation. So obviously if you're on vacation with somebody else, you're going to be walking around talking, exploring the area that you're in. That's a nice way to, maybe remove some of that guilt that can be associated with being on vacation, being like, oh, I'm missing the gym. But think about, like you said, you're getting 15,000 steps in a day or whatever. That still counts there as well. And I think you bring up a good point at the end too, is all of this and its implication on not only your physical health, but the knock-on effect to your mental health as well.
Yeah.
Obviously, that's part of the main focus of this podcast, I guess I would say. But obviously, those two things go hand in hand. You're feeling physically fit and better. Those benefits that you're doing, as you say, consumption of creatine, whatever, those things are also positively impacting your brain, which is going to impact your mental health, release of endorphins, all that kind of good stuff. Those are all things that are going to make you feel mentally better and more positive.
Yeah, dude. In every episode, we talk about how physical health is mental health and then, yeah, you can't have one without the other. So what do you think? Maybe we talk about alcohol that I just alluded there to. Yeah. So I was conflicted on whether or not I was going to have drinks here with my family this week in Mexico. My rule has just been no drinking while at home in Victoria. And yeah, I allowed myself to do it, but didn't go crazy, which I'm fortunate about. We had full access to like an incredibly stocked bar here and just beers in the fridge. But I've been going like, I'll have a beer, then I'll have a sparkling water, prioritizing that hydration. That's another thing. Do not forget hydration on vacation for your physical and mental health. Yeah, mixing in a Diet Coke, then having a little cocktail. Yeah, there was one day out of like the 6 here where I would say that I was, drunk by Anthony standards.
I do think, obviously, you bringing this up is good. I like the vulnerability to express that. But also, secondly, I think life is an interesting thing, right? We have to give ourselves a bit of a break sometimes. You can't be perfect. And if that means if you're on vacation with your family and you've had this general goal to not consume alcohol, it is very much okay to have a few drinks and unwind and enjoy those like different aspects. That's not going to have any sort of negative long-term impact on you. It's okay to also like have days where you're not totally aligned with your overall goals. That's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you, and we'll argue against it in this slightly small way because it is alcohol we're talking about. And I did say to my mom and my brother that I don't think that next vacation will be an alcohol one, or I'll use it like much more sparingly, because when it comes to alcohol, there are things like alcoholic tendencies, which I have. So
Yeah.
Coming down here and drinking for a week could derail me from my goals back home. And it's for what gain? Like, I've enjoyed the cocktails with the family, but am I having so much more fun and so much more enjoyment because I'm participating than if I wouldn't? I want to argue no. It's just, it's not giving me what it used to. Luckily, I haven't been over consuming, so it hasn't been taking too much away that I've been noticing, but it does long term. And yeah. So that's kind of my findings. Maybe that second drink of the day when the buzz first hits, I feel that magic for a moment, but it's fleeting and then it's gone. And then it becomes kind of like it's a chore. It's an objective. It's like this is what we do. We just consume calories and drinks and alcohol. And I don't know.
Yeah. I think to me that expresses your evolution in your relationship with alcohol as well. I think it's a lot different than it used to be, which is a positive. It proves the amount of work you put in.
Yeah. Thanks, man. I also have lost a little bit of the love and the passion for it. Like, I'm not super jazzed about these premium tequilas that used to would have get me so horny, you know, like, we went into this wine shop and there was actually like a great selection of like local producers. It looked like some, some great wine options, but I couldn't really care less.
Yeah.
Like my favorite drink this trip has been a beachside, like cheap and dirty pina colada.
Nice.
So it's a long way from the former booze snobbery.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very, very much so.
Well, something that my parents used to always say to me when I was a kid was, just wait till you're older. And this whole rumor of how you mature and you change, and turns out maybe there's something to that. So was that informative? Did you learn some things? Are you inspired to get back?
I am inspired, particularly from that. I am someone who definitely has felt that intimidation factor of going to the gym. There's definitely times when I felt like I didn't really know what I was doing. That's why I think I preferred going with you or like some of our other friends. It gave me a bit of a network and I could just kind of follow along, do what you guys were doing. But that was a good reminder that you can start small. I don't have to go and like absolutely kill myself in there, focus on form, do some small stuff. I'm going to feel better. I know that the way that my health has improved, I have the energy capacity, I guess you could call it, where I know I can do a little bit. And I think that's a good place to start. Yeah. Luckily I've got some free weights even here around at home. I've got a nice little bar that I picked up from our pal Jake.
Great.
And I can put those things to use. So I have been inspired.
Amazing. Okay, so another point on progressive overload that I just remembered and particularly relevant for your home workouts is so a good goal that I use for progressive overload in the gym, if my goal in a set is I'm going to do 8 reps or 8 to 10 reps, if I get under 8 reps, I can't go up in weight. I have to stay there. If I get over 10 reps, I can increase 5 pounds. That's where the progressive overload comes in. And it doesn't only have to go in weight, it could go in reps. So you're limited with the weights that you have at home. So you would probably just start by how many reps can I get? And then, week 1, you get 12 reps or something. Week 2, you're able to do 14. That's the progressive overload. That's muscle growth happening in real time right there, assuming it's supported with all of the other factors as well. Yeah.
No, that's some great information for, as I say, somebody like me who hasn't fully engrossed myself in it and don't necessarily know a lot.
Yeah.
That can just be like a simple point of reference to be like, okay, have I reached that 8 rep minimum? No. So I'm going to stay at this weight.
Yeah.
Cool.
Absolutely. Yeah. It can be simple. Focus on the simple tenets, the protein, the compound muscle movements, and you'll progress.
I like it.
Okay. That's it. That's all. Yeah. What did you think about the segment on fitness there, Dev, with your heart issues and you finding ways to get back out there?
My experiences with doing cold recovery after playing soccer, where I was finding I was just so sore. I could would limp around for the 6 days afterwards until game day again. And one of the things I started doing was just on the way home, I'd stop by the liquor store, pick up a 6-pack of beer, and then get my free bag of ice, and then go home, run a cold bath, throw the ice in it, and sit in there for 20 minutes and have a beer. And this was obviously when I was playing soccer and drinking beer. But that was a pretty simple way to get around having a little ice bath in the post-recovery phase. And it made a massive, massive difference. It was actually quite shocking, but it makes a ton of sense when you think about when you're exercising, you're you're working and breaking down that muscle. And like, what do you do when you have an injured muscle? You put ice on it and it helps it recover. It's the same thing on a larger scale. It makes a ton of sense. So that was a key thing.
I found myself thinking about cold exposure in our Mexico City Airbnb because there was an issue with the electric water heater for the shower. So you could only get 2 settings, absolutely frigid, ice cold, or Mordor, Mount Doom, scalding hot. And so like, yeah, maybe it helped my muscles from getting those 15,000 steps around the city. Oh, by the way, man, Mexico City is one of the coolest cities I've ever been to by far. Amazing foodie city. You got to go. Can't recommend it enough.
Yeah, there's a few things that I've watched, like YouTube videos and stuff about different like architectural components of Mexico City, like cool houses and stuff like there. Like the art scene seems amazing. I would very much be into that. And then obviously, yeah, the food scene is cool too. It's funny, I sent Sarah this reel the other day that was like a thing about when you're traveling in your like early 20s or something. And it's like, yeah, you get an Airbnb and it's like, oh, we got 5 people. But it's got 2 beds. Oh, that's fine. We'll just cram in. Like, what's the nightlife scene like there? Blah, blah, all this kind of stuff. And then the difference between being in your early 30s. Oh, let's go to this place because I hear this museum's really cool. And let's find an Airbnb in an area of town that's quiet, but also walking distance to the like main part of town. Is like how it totally is just a 180 shift and how it happens so quickly. So I would very much be into that Mexico City for that sort of walking, foodie, cool architecture, cultural, artsy stuff. Sounds great.
Yeah, you nailed it. There's near downtown, the Centro Historico District. That's near where the museums were. Really cool Gothic buildings and domes and integrated with like jungle flora and fauna throughout the bustling city. There's a roundabout with this amazing golden angel sculpture that has a great name that I can't remember and a great story that I can't remember. And then it's like 5 lanes that go around this roundabout, and the driving there was just so chaotic. So it's like a beautiful dance, chaos, but organized, worked out, and nobody crashed. Lots of beeping and lots of stern looks, but yeah. It worked.
That's how I found in Southeast Asia, like ripping around on scooters and stuff there. It was really funny, like so different. It's organized entirely differently. Here, there's so many rules to the road. There, the rule of the road is basically if you're bigger, you have priority. If you're smaller, you don't. And it just seems to function that way. And in some ways, it was just freeing. Like, you know, it was nice to not have so many rules and you just play Frogger across the street and things like that.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of not giving pedestrians the right of way. Like, obviously, if you live in Canada, you have to. But it was nice that there was no room for misunderstanding. Like this awkward dance that sometimes you can get to in Victoria when like you're standing 2 feet away from the curb and like a car will stop for you like 30 feet away. And you're like, no, I want you to go. And there's this like, who goes first thing? No, in Mexico, cars go. And people go when there's no cars.
I'm bigger than you. I will run you over. So you wait.
And they will, sure. Or they'll stop 2 inches from you and be slamming on the horn. Yeah. Also, since this has turned into a travel blog, I highly recommend staying in the neighborhoods of Condesa or Roma Norte. If you look them up online, they're described as like hipster tourist districts, fortunately or unfortunately, but whatever. I thought it was super cool. There's a giant, almost as big as a road that divides the roads going in opposite directions of the street. That's just a walking path for dog walkers, basically. And apparently there's this phenomenon where dog walkers will take care of the dogs of like the rich young professionals in Mexico City during the day. So you'll see people with like 5 to 10 dogs tied around their waist, like all walking through this park together. Never seen so many dogs in one place. It was kind of amazing.
Love that.
Yeah. They have a park in the middle of the city that's bigger than Central Park in New York, and you can take the park to access the like lakes in the middle of an urban center and museums in the middle of an urban center. Like the Anthropology Museum is a huge highlight, and I thought you would have loved it.
Yeah, man. When you sent me those photos, I was like drooling. Love that. So cool.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't, I think, especially in our generation too, like don't realize the like actual history of Mexico and how at one point it was actually quite an economic powerhouse. They had a whole like public like oil operation and were doing quite well economically, and then got totally whooped over and we're forced to sell that or privatize it, I guess I should say. And that totally changed the direction of Mexico. But there was a while where it was this kind of like thriving economic hub of culture and art. And that's the kind of stuff that I would like to see in Mexico City for sure from that era.
Yeah. And then on the other end of the stick, they had this private museum that had imported Rodin sculptures. And I saw the Gates of Hell and stuff. That was really neat. What's your opinion on ancient civilizations and the fact that we've got the timeline wrong in terms of the existence of early humans?
What do you mean we've got the timeline wrong?
Well, like there's this theory that more sophisticated humans existed long before we say the first humans existed. And then there was a mass extinction event that basically delayed our progression. And then it was picked up kind of from around ground zero again. But that's why there's sprinklings of like sophistication in unsophisticated cultures. And yeah.
Yeah, I think that's History Channel, like aliens. There's this sort of shit.
I see why you might be saying that, but there is this one person that I find incredibly compelling who has a Netflix series that featured Keanu Reeves in one episode, and I want you to watch it and then tell me if it's totally bullshit or not. But he supports it, and he makes great arguments. He takes us to like archaeological sites and does carbon dating and shows scientific.
I'm pretty sure I've watched that. It's interesting. I mean, I think it's one of those things where
ancient apocalypse.
Yeah. I think I maybe watched that.
Graham.
It's one of those things where there is like when you dive into it, right? Like I was an anthropology minor in university. When you dive into it, there's lots of reasons in like why that would be considered like outside the general consensus of science, right? A good example of that is that I think he's a Norwegian explorer and anthropologist, Thor Heyerdahl or whatever. I actually have one of his books somewhere up there. But he had this whole theory that actually Polynesia was originally inhabited from people from South America, because he basically argued that people came over the land bridge up in like Siberia and then populated down through the Americas, and then that it was actually possible. So he built a balsa wood raft and sailed it from like Ecuador or Peru or something to Polynesia. And his argument was because they had found some evidence of some kind of plant or something that could only have traveled in that direction. And so that was his theory, and he did all these like crazy sorts of like adventurous things to try and prove his theories. But in reality, there's this like whole other chunk of the archaeological record that proves like it didn't happen that way. The flow was eastward, but then it reached a point where those people in Polynesia were then traveling to South America and back. There was like trade routes and things like that. As I say, it falls into that category of like, okay, cool, fun theory. It's great to listen to. He's presenting his evidence within like one small sliver of the scientific community and record and whatever experiments and stuff, but the like massive overwhelming chunk of other scientific data that isn't presented in that documentary has theories that are more founded within the larger scale of evidence. You know?
But that's the part of the argument that I like most, though, because that large collective body that you're suggesting, that's the confirmation bias. And the fact that he has a hypothesis that in a way he can confirm to prove the massive collective wrong, like that's all you need. Think about medicine.
That's not the way science works, though.
It absolutely is. It absolutely is. That's what a hypothesis.
No, it's not.
It is. Think about what the medicine is like, our most important field of study, because it's literally life or death. And when people establish new hypotheses, it's not to prove that they're right. It's to prove that the current belief is wrong. And that's how we change it.
Yes.
Like think about our medical beliefs 50 years ago and 100 years ago, and how there's been room for progress. The ego of these archaeologists couldn't possibly handle the fact that they've been wrong for their whole lives, and really there's no stakes on it. It doesn't matter.
It's not ego. What happens is that if somebody presents this idea that does fulfill all of the scientific curriculum and can change enough people's minds within the scientific community, and it disproves a whole bunch of other things, then that becomes the new consensus. But there's a whole lot of things that happen.
No,
it hasn't.
I don't know.
It definitely hasn't. Like, sure,
Well,
I've been out of the game for a little while, but it is definitely not the new consensus. There's lots of different reasons for those things. Like, if you want to talk about exciting discoveries within the world of anthropology, there was a massive civilization in the Amazon that was basically previously unrecorded, other than very brief snippets of written records from Spanish sailors that were coming over and populating like the area of Brazil and stuff, and even southern. I think even further southern into like Brazil, Paraguay and Uruguay. But now with some of the technological advancements in like LiDAR and stuff like that,
so you're
they've
confirming my
actually,
point. So you're confirming my point.
no, I'm confirming that if you want to get excited about that area of anthropology, there are actual scientifically backed and confirmed things that are on the precipice of exciting discoveries about massive civilizations in the Amazon that now they're finding concrete evidence for, and is backed with a plethora of archaeological discoveries that
Yeah, I bet we're talking
fulfill
about the
that.
same thing. He does an
It's
episode
not, it's
on that,
different.
honestly.
Yeah, but so he's
Using LiDAR
pointing.
scanners in old routes to show that the carbon dating is way before when it was previously recorded. It was like, what, our humans are supposed to be only 10,000 years old or something? And he's finding evidence from like 40,000 years ago. How do you refute that?
There's lots of reasons why that could happen. That happens all the time. That's what I'm saying. Like those are very common occurrences, and there can be lots of different reasons why that might happen. Say one example could be some kind of volcanic activity like plateau movement or whatever that can move a different piece of strata to an area that is unexpected and gets dated wrong, or maybe it's been affected and like not tampered with, but there's an outside reason why that piece might be lying in a piece of strata that it isn't actually from that era. Or I mean, like I said, there's 1,000 different things that could cause that sort of issue. That's why generally that's why the consensus exists, right? It's like, okay, so this is one piece of thing that's saying this is from 40,000 years ago, not 10,000 years ago. What's something else backing that up, right? Like if you're solving a crime, you don't go look for one piece of evidence. You try and find motive. You try and find a bunch of other things to then conclusively prove that that is the case. Finding one outlier is common, but finding the chunk to prove that it's correct is the whole other piece that's sometimes missing. Maybe I'm getting my...
And let's come back in 20 years and let's check in. Let's see if anything.
And maybe you'll be right,
no,
right? Like that,
in Mexico.
that's cool. But maybe some of that stuff might be right? Like the one thing that I found particularly interesting, it said maybe I'm getting my shows mixed up, but there was one thing, I think it was like in Southeast Asia, where he basically thinks he found like a pyramid structure on the top of like a mountain or something, but I think gave some they weren't allowing archaeological research there for some reason or something. Does that sound like the same show?
Potentially. He goes around to lots of historic sites and does new LiDAR scanning and shows technology that they didn't previously have. And
Maybe that was it. I also feel like it's one of the common misconceptions when we think back to 10,000 years ago. We automatically think that the people of that time and the like technology that they had must be in some ways like less advanced or more stupid, like that if people didn't have the intelligence that we have now,
I don't think that's the point, though. It's just intelligence.
But I think it's a common misrepresentation when people think about, like, say, Egyptians, for example. I think it's a common thing for the modern person to think that the average Egyptian or the collective intelligence of Egyptians in that era was less. Like, there were people with the same brains we have. They just had a totally different cultural upbringing, and their minds thought in such different ways. Like, think about, if you want to talk about like Aztecs and stuff, their charts for the stars and the solar systems and stuff were super advanced. Like, their calendar is better than the one we use. Like,
so how did those societies share information if they never traveled that way and had no way of sharing information? Is it just purely coincidence that these cultures in different parts of the world that lived at different times created pyramids that like geometrically align in like bizarre ways? Is that just based on they were seeing the same stars, I guess?
Yeah, I think some of it is coincidence. You could point to different random things. Oh, they're all fall within this thing. Yeah, I don't know. Some of that is coincidence. The other thing is, like, in some ways, building a pyramid structure is like, think about being a kid and playing with Legos. Building a pyramid is the easiest thing.
Yeah, but that's not primal knowledge though.
I think being a kid and playing with Lego.
Yeah, but to get that pyramid shape though, are you born with that shape? Here's another thought that I have is that we're all consuming the same psychedelics. And I truly believe that there's some origin knowledge within that, because people share common stories about their psychedelic experience, and the geometric shapes that happen when you're on DMT, it's like, it's otherworldly, or it's not. Maybe it is worldly. Like the, what's that pattern that occurs in cauliflower?
Like the Fibonacci sequence
Yeah,
or
yeah,
whatever.
Fibonacci sequence for sure.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
but
That's where I
like
think
Aztecs, Egyptians, Mayans, they all did the same
yeah.
drugs, so they saw all the same things, and that inspired their art and their.
They were also discovering, maybe in different ways, you know, like not enough to like name this. Oh, this is a Fibonacci sequence, but they were discovering the mathematical and physical realities of our universe and our existence, and then building the reality upon that. And that would lead them in similar directions, right? Like the Fibonacci sequence, that is a mathematical fact then and now. So yeah, maybe psychedelics helped to unlock the potential of the mind. I think an interesting potential area of study is this idea of like a collective conscience, and sometimes weird things that seem like a coincidence maybe aren't, and maybe there's a different way where we can mentally tap into things that are going on elsewhere. This is kind of a random tangent, but I remember years ago when I was younger, my grandpa and my mom both having a dream on the same night that kind of like coincided with each other. So my mom had a dream that our whole family went to a movie theater to see a movie, and we were all inside, and my grandparents were just pulling up in the parking lot, and it was slippery and icy out. And so my mom was at the window yelling like, "Be careful, don't rush, it's okay, like we're not going to be late, like just don't slip on the ice." And my grandpa was having a dream that my mom was outside their bedroom window and was yelling at him from outside the window, and he like reacted so much to it he like fell out of bed. Like that is a crazy, maybe it's a coincidence, but like what are the chances of that happening on the same night?
There's something to it.
There's something, right? Like I think, and I don't know if it's something on like an atomic level or there's something we don't understand. I think I haven't looked into like the science behind these sorts of things. I remember it being referenced to in like a Dan Brown book at one point in time.
Yeah.
But
science would say it's a psychotic experience.
But like a simultaneous, you know, like there's something there that's unexplained. Maybe it's coincidence. Sure, that can happen. Like in the grand
knowledge, aliens.
So I mean, there could be things. There's obviously things out there that science doesn't understand. I try not to get sucked into those like conspiracy theory or religious types of answers for those things. It's okay to not know, and it doesn't mean I need to like buy into some unfounded thing to explain it all.
The wool is being pulled away from our eyes in so many other areas. It just encourages you to think critically, and it encourages you to conspire.
Yeah.
Like, so these old balls, white, rich scientists from 100 years ago told me this is the way the world is, and we haven't changed our mind on it really since. And if we question it, Anyways, on to more pressing topics. Why did elongated muskrat give the Nazi salute at the Trump rally? That is fucked. And just if you want to say this in the comments, the Roman salute is the Nazi salute. That's where he got it from.
Dude, if it looks like a duck, it quacks like a duck. Yeah, the guy's a fucking Nazi. That's what the situation is. I was talking about this with my grandma the other day, because she was, or yesterday or whatever, because she's upset about it, right? Like she's somebody who lived through the end of World War II and the like lasting implications on the world of this stuff. Like she's qualified to feel some emotions about it. And so we were having this conversation, and I was saying, take it in one isolated incident. Maybe I would give him the benefit of the doubt. Sure. Maybe. I can't say because it's not one isolated incident, but sure. In that instance, maybe he was overly excited. He's definitely not the most physically coordinated guy. He made a movement that seemed really wrong, and then he realized it was wrong, so he did it again, facing the other way to be like, no, I didn't mean to do that. Whatever. Made a mistake. Sure. But if you then look at all these other things that he's like literally funding right-wing Nazi political parties throughout the world and trying to like mess with elections in other countries, Germany, the UK, whatever. He's apparently given his thumbs up for old Pierre Poilievre here in Canada. So that's a big old red flag for me. And then also he buys Twitter because of this idea of like free speech. So he can allow this like conversation on the right to run rampant on the social media platform that he owns. Then like the way that
Dolph's top homies were the editors of the newspapers and shit like that. And think about who was in the front row of the inauguration. Everyone that controls the media.
Yeah. The way we communicate every single way.
Yeah.
And literally every single way. CEO of Apple, CEO of Meta, CEO of fucking Twitter, CEO of TikTok, CEO of Google. We're fucked, dude. Like, to me, that was it was the last straw in, as you were saying, like the wool being pulled off of our eyes. I was like, none of this is being hidden anymore. Like, that was the straw that broke the camel's back. Like, I will no longer give anyone the benefit of the doubt.
What's the chapter in Animal Farm where the pig tells everyone that aliens are real and shows... Open up Area 51. Do something at least crazy to my benefit.
But the thing, like, I don't trust any of it anymore. I don't care. Like, I will never look at anything in the same way again.
Except for the timeline of humankind and its origin date. That's written in stone. It's scary, man. It's scary.
So terrifying. Like, I'm done, man. I'm over it. And that, like, they're at the inauguration of the president of the United States, the wealthiest person in the world, got up and did a fucking Sieg Heil on stage, dude. What? Like, did I actually just watch that?
While he was literally foaming at the mouth. Crazy person. Oh, man.
Absolutely insanity, man. I don't know. I can't think about it too much. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah. Okay, in that case, let's travel back to Mexico here. Where are my notes?
Nice. Should we get into our weekly affirmations? Nice.
So do we start with talking about our goal from last week?
Yeah. So remind me of your goal from last week.
My goal from last week was managing my frustration, especially while on vacation. And I did okay there. So throughout the travel, no frustration, really calm. The one thing that I will say about this week is I think vacation is like the mindset and the mind frame that we should all be living our everyday lives with. Like, I've never been more present and in the moment than, when my only objective is just to exist. And that's what vacation is. But it still caught up to me in a few situations, especially being here with family, especially being here with my younger brother. We were playing a big game of cards just last night, actually, and we had kind of the first blow up of the trip. Jason jumped ahead of me in the turn. We were playing president or asshole or whatever, and then I was like, "Hey, man, it's my turn." And then he kind of had a spaz at me. He's like, "Be quicker then." I just lost it, and I just yelled at him, "Fuck off!" And then sensitive, and then stormed off, and then there's kind of like that awkward tension for a moment, and we apologized and hugged it out. But yeah, I just felt some shame that I want to practice what I preach. I want to be this positive example, this role model of being a Zen master, and that wasn't it.
Yeah, man. I should send actually a clip. My therapist posted it, and it made me think about your mention of that frustration that you have sometimes. And it was an interesting little snippet. I can't remember the exact details right now, unfortunately, but I will send it over to you, and maybe I'll repost it onto our channels, because I felt like it was good advice and related to that frustration piece.
Another thing that I've been feeling this trip, and I'm conflicted by how I can have this opinion because I'm participating in it, and it's so hypocritical, but I just feel like there's just disrespectful tourists everywhere, and I'm like in this plague that's infected this stunning place, and we're just walking around like we own the place, leaving this trail of destruction in our wake. And
Yeah, I know that feeling well.
Especially there's been some moments where like my family's been guilty of that, and I've just had some cringe and some frustration set in. So I've just been dissecting all of that, and yeah, understanding that I'm here, I'm loving it, I'm part of it. So
Yeah. There's a trend that I've seen on Instagram of people doing reels of that being that like judgy tourist, like sitting in a cafe, sipping, like watching these other tourists walking around and be like, ah, like what idiots tourists or whatever. But then the realization that you are one of them. Yeah, I think that key thing in there is just it's how you approach being a tourist. I think it's key to be respectful and understand that you are a visitor in another country, another culture, another place, another people. So it's not being that kind of belligerent. I'm a tourist. I'm on vacation. I don't give a shit about the rules because I'm here to have fun. Which I think at the right place, in the right time, whatever, that's fine. That's why we go on vacation, is to let loose and release some of that tension from your regular life. But it's understanding that there's you're in another country, and like, how would you feel if other people came and disrespected your town or your city or your public spaces and stuff, right? So
yeah,
yeah,
definitely I have a super sexy, fluent Spanish speaking girlfriend by my side. So
speak Spanish as well. Oh my gosh,
yeah,
talented.
amazing. Okay, what was your goal last week?
So mine was to review my therapy notes, which, I mean, the fact that you brought up the being in the moment piece, that's a big one for me. So I did review some of my notes that ended up being, in some ways, which I didn't really realize but it was a bit of a cherry picked one, because I was actually going into a therapy session like relatively soon afterwards. So I kind of did that anyway. But for me, the one that I do kind of forget on a regular basis, that is a key piece. It's not something that we've necessarily talked about a bunch. Didn't talk about it last week because I think some of the other details of that process of going through therapy are a little bit different, or you don't hear about them as much. So I focus on them a bit more. But one of the things that does help me a ton is that being in the moment piece. As you say, on vacation, you're separating yourself from your regular life. So you're trying not to worry about things as much, and you're just being there and being in the moment, experiencing new places, which becomes easy to do when you are in a new place or somewhere different, and there's people speaking a different language and other tourists to look at or whatever. There's lots of stuff going on that keeps you in the moment. That's one of the key things. I think my therapist calls it going on these like 5 senses walks, where you go out and you're trying to notice these things with your 5 different senses out in the world. And that by doing that helps get you into the moment and not either. So somebody's explained this to me, and I don't know how accurate it is, but it seems like it makes sense. It's a little bit anecdotal, but they explain like feelings of anxiety are when you are kind of worrying about what's going to happen in the future, and feelings of depression are when you're worrying about things from the past. And you can, kind of fluctuate between those things. And whereas if you're living in the moment, you can avoid those two things.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely find that as like a general rule is pretty accurate. That is when I have tendency towards feelings of anxiety or depression, it is those things. I'm either worrying about something that's happened in the past or stressing about reaching a certain goal in the future or whatever. So reviewing my notes has been key to remember some of those key things, like living in the moment. That's a very important one. So yeah, I did that this week. We'll continue to do it. I think it's really, really important to continue reviewing that stuff. So
yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It'll be amazing for you to look back on those notes too in 5 years time. And yeah.
Totally, man. Even when I'm 6-7 months in, it's pretty incredible. The just my education and understanding, my knowledge base to do with the whole thing, and how much I've actually improved mentally is pretty cool. So, yeah. So our next one is grateful for. I'm sure you feel like lots of things to be grateful for this week while you're away in Mexico, but
yeah.
what did you write down?
I wrote down my family. I haven't always thought of my family as a source of happiness and joy over the years, the odd rocky points that a lot of families have. But lately, we've really come together as this blended family, this conjoined unit. And yeah, it's awesome. I feel all those things that you should feel from a family, love and support. And yeah, they're a great crew. There's been 11 of us here. My mom, my brother, me, my mom's husband, Ross, his whole family, little baby Carter, who I've talked about before.
Nice.
There's a highlight. Getting to hang out with that little kid for the whole year.
That's cool.
It's been the most amount of time we've had hanging out. And yeah, it's pretty cool. kids content and toys are like, they've never been better. Never better. There's this Spider-Man show out now. So he's got all these Spider-Man toys, and yeah, it's super fun. Grateful for my family this week and ongoing. How about you?
Nice. Love that. For me, I am grateful for this week. I wrote down all the little things we take for granted. And what I mean by that and what inspired that was Sarah and I watched this movie on Netflix called Joy. And it's about the scientists who first discovered and did the research and figured out IVF, essentially. I don't know if you've watched it or seen it on there.
No, only heard about it.
Yeah, good old Bill Nighy plays like one of the doctors and stuff. But it really made me think how fucking lucky we are to have people like that in history or out there in the world that go through so much shit and sacrifice so much for the betterment of our world and society. IVF is one of those things that, I mean, you hope you never really need. We're at the point now where, if we decide to have a family, we are going to need it. And it's not ever something I've thought of like, oh, somebody would have to scientifically figure that out. And, all that was before our time, and understanding the societal implications and the pressure that they got, and, being ostracized from their family and their community and their family and their church and all that kind of stuff. It was really interesting and made me feel quite emotional for those people. And it aligned me in kind of how I want to prioritize living my life, the kind of person that I want to be and the kind of legacy that I would like to leave, and made me think like I wish more people just approach their lives in that way, just trying to make the world better.
It's a privilege to be able to approach our lives that way, like to not have to deal with basic survival things, to be able to then think bigger.
100%. Yeah. So yeah, it was very cool. Highly stress it. Super interesting. But it was a good movie. But I'm very much grateful for people like that and the myriad of different things that I don't even realize that exist and make our lives better.
No doubt.
Yeah.
I hear horror stories of the massive expense related to that in vitro fertilization. Is it covered in Canada at all?
So it depends on the province. BC has announced last year that they're going to start covering the first round of IVF for people. There's no like specific details on it yet, but it is expected to be live at some point this year, 2025, whatever that might look like. So as I say, in some ways, the timing will probably work out well for us if we do choose to go that direction. But yeah.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So yeah. So I mixed up our second affirmation this week. Typically, we were doing a moment of awe, but I just recently listened to Dr. Laurie Santos on the science of happiness, and she talks about daily delights, which I thought was really cool. And it's a little more natural and effortless than, sometimes it can be a little contrived to think of gratitude moments all the time, or like big awe-inspiring moments. But if you find delights or joy in the small everyday things, she argues that that's a path to happiness, and obviously supports it with science as well. So a daily delight could be something like amazing morning cup of coffee, a funny photo, or a positive human interaction. And mine was a positive human interaction. Our taxi driver the other day, when we first got in here, picked us up in the airport, chatting to Layla in Spanish about what we do for work back in Canada, and just like having a good conversation. He could speak some English and identified that I didn't speak Spanish. So he said some things to me and we were laughing and having a great time. But he asked me first what I did for work, and Layla translated. And then I said, I sell cannabis. And he got a kick out of that. And then he asked Layla, and this got lost in translation a little bit, but Layla basically ended up saying that she was a lawyer. And just thought that was the funniest thing, and started to get me off if I have any issues with the law. And
yeah,
it was just our excitement and laughter amongst each other in the cab was just hilarious. And yeah.
That's so great. I love those moments. Those moments with strangers, right? Like they can be so fun. I wish I had said something. I didn't end up doing it because I wasn't necessarily getting the vibes from this person, but I started filling up with gas at Costco because it's cheaper. And so I pulled into the Costco gas thing. This Toyota pulled in behind me was one of those vehicles that I might give away a bit of the joke, I guess, but when their vehicles are like reversing and they just play that loud sound so you know that they're backing up because there's no engine sound. It was doing that. And there's been a little bit of me that's interested in those sort of newish Toyota electric vehicles. It's like their name's stupid. It's like BZ-X or something. And I almost asked the guy, oh, is that one of those like Toyota electric cars? But we're sitting in the gas, like he's pulling up to fill up with gas. I was like, I thought about saying like, hey man, I just had this thought. I thought I should share it with you because it was pretty funny. And I wasn't getting the vibes from him that I should, but I should have. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah, that would have been.
Yeah. But anyway, yeah, we changed this a little bit and to a moment of delight, which is like a little bit different. And so I'm not sure if mine like totally fits, but whatever, who cares? We make up the rules here, so I'm going to do it anyway.
Yeah.
But talking about that previous therapy session that I had, we've obviously been working through the different steps and getting to different levels as we progress. And the last week was the first time we got into a term you might be familiar with, but as a term within therapy, but like little T trauma. So obviously we talk about, talk about two different types of trauma. There's like big T trauma, which is I would say for me was like ending up in the hospital because I thought I was having a heart attack, and they're like implicating like health issues that went along with that whole experience. That was scary. I thought I was dying. Like that's a big T trauma, like PTSD type stuff. Then you have little T traumas, which are just tiny little things that happen in your life that you don't necessarily recognize as trauma, but over time and over the years, they can then impact you negatively as any the big T trauma can. And for me, I'd heard those terms before, and I always assumed that when you're going to therapy, what you're dealing with primarily is the big T traumas. And it was interesting to dive into sort of unexpectedly. It just came up through conversation. Well, that's selling my therapist short. I'm sure she was leading the conversation in a specific direction, but ended up getting into like some little T trauma stuff, which then she professed after the fact is like that's where the really interesting stuff for her lies, and that's when you can really start to make a difference, is understanding those little T traumas. So I won't be so vulnerable that I get into the specific details of like little T trauma for me, but it was this sort of idea that little things that maybe happen in your childhood, or things that how you were raised or whatever, then obviously have an impact on who you become as a person and the way that you think of yourself and the way that you think about the world and determine your values and all these types of things. It's that nature versus nurture thing, right? And that nurture piece is clearly one of the two important pieces. And I had this big like aha, which is initially why I was thinking of like a moment of awe, but it was also very much a moment of delight after like realizing it and walking out of that session being like, whoa, like I just figured out something massive about myself. And that's going to give me some incredible tools to understand myself better, to guide my decision-making going forward, to deal with like specific situations that might bring me frustration, kind of like you're talking about. And that was, I would say it was delight. It was like, wow, I just figured out this huge thing. Like it was really cool. And I'm excited to continue working on that, like figure out what these other little T things are, and go from there. So maybe like a slight divergence of a moment of delight, but I think it counts.
John, do you know the answer to this, or should I ask my therapist? But so let's say that you identify a little T or a big T trauma from childhood. Like for whatever reason, when you started sharing that, I was thinking about this one time when I was a little kid and I was misbehaving and my dad threw my stuffed animal into the fireplace and then I watched it burn. Is that big or little? And me dissecting it now, like what benefit and progress is that going to give me? Or how do I get through that? How do I work through that?
I mean, first of all, I do think that's something you should discuss with your therapist. I don't know. I don't have the professional qualifications to determine if that's a big T or a little T. I think that's more dependent upon you than anything. Mm-hmm. But that's really funny. No, I don't know.
Okay, moving on. A mood booster. My mood booster, especially this week, has been dancing. I am not a
Nice.
dancer. I don't think I've historically liked dancing, but we've just been in the moment. We've been so happy on vacation in Mexico. Me and my lady, we've just, we've just been dancing little moments together all throughout the week, smiling, giggling, and yeah, such a mood booster.
That's cool. So as you know, my sister is the opposite of you. Very, very well, I don't know what you call it, well achieved dancer. But she posted a thing on social media the other day, and it was something about some scientific study that showed the health and mental health benefits of dancing and being like almost like number one on the list. And so I think you just named the top of the list mood booster, having a dance.
Yeah. Well, it also goes along with music too, so it's a double header of
totally moving your body. There's a little bit of like exercise component. Yeah, it's cool. Something I haven't done in a long time. Maybe I'll when I get a moment to myself here, I'll put on some tunes and have a little dance. Mine was as I was saying to you before we started recording, I had a bit of a difficult week. Got some unfortunate news, but my mood booster, because it was just something that I found made me feel. I think something that's important to me is a feeling of achievement, like I've achieved something. I like that. This makes me feel good. So my mood booster for this week is specifically in these times of hyperinflation and the current state of the economy in the world. But I am particularly enjoying finding a good deal lately.
mm-hmm.
As I mentioned, we've been like filling up the gas at Costco, shopping at Costco, trying to be as like efficient as we can. And went out the other day, did some shopping, was like very happy with how little I spent on groceries, which is not a common thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt good to be like, yeah, I won today, you know?
Yeah.
So that was a good little mood booster. I'm going to take it.
It's awesome. I agree with that. There's not so many deals down in Mexico these days.
Yeah, man, I bet the prices have increased pretty significantly since we were there.
But if it means that we're bolstering their economy, then by all means.
Totally.
Or not, though, I think it's funneled up to the greedy 1% somehow, some way.
Yeah, exactly. Like who owns the resort where you're there, like spending money or whatever. But that's why
there's a rule that non-Mexicans can't buy real estate 25 miles or 25 kilometers from the ocean, which is great. Otherwise, it would just be non-Mexicans owning the resorts that they would then rent out to other non-Mexicans, and they would just own the tourism. So
totally. So somebody is at least owning the land, I guess.
Yeah. Or non-Mexicans can buy property inland.
Yeah, which is not where you want to have the resorts. So
yeah.
It's a politically smart rule.
I thought so. Okay. My goal of the week, because I brought my sketchbook and my watercolors with me, but I haven't done anything. So for the week is to do like at least 2 different drawing paintings.
Nice.
Yeah.
I like that. That's cool. Have you been doing much of that like within the last few years? I remember when I came in, when you were staying in that old manor house, you had your little easel set up.
Yeah. Since getting this sketchbook and watercolor set, I've been doing like a little something once a week, but only because I've started to write. So it's the same book that I write in, and just the supplies are just ready. And by me assigning myself the task of writing, I then am already sat down to the book with the supplies, and I've been doing some painting.
I'm interested because I'm not the very good. I don't have a very good artsy skill, I guess you could say. But there is times when in life where I feel like a desire to, I just don't have the skill. I remember that feeling sometimes as a kid, like sitting around your board, whatever. And I was like, I feel like expressing myself in an artistic way right now, but I don't have any tools for how to do that. I'm interested to know what that, for you is. Does that sound like a feeling you get when you feel inspired or you want to produce some, like, is it a feeling that you get, or how do you?
So. Yeah. But to express myself creatively in general. So it's not necessarily drawing or writing or painting. It's the act of doing any one of those things. I feel like the longer I go without doing that, It's like the more I'm getting distracted from my passions or my happiness. So by forcing myself to do that, I reconnect and I feel better. I honestly, you should go and buy yourself a setup. And one, you'll surprise yourself with what you can create. And two, it's one of the skills that improves over time. You don't need lessons or anything, just the act of doing it, you get better. Be right back. Diet Cokes are called Coke Light.
Cool. I like that.
Yeah. So in my sketchbook, I literally only draw what I see. So look forward and then think of a frame and then mark in your frame of reference. So if I were to want to paint this image of me that I see right now, I would start on the edge of where the balcony is and then get like the mountain line in as reference points and then base the distance off those points and basically sketch it and then go in from there. And yeah, it's fun. That's what I do.
Nice.
Like I'll paint my living room or draw my living room, or here I just want to do like what's in front of me on the beach.
Yeah, cool. We just Sarah's been doing a lot of sewing, and she wanted to use some of her like Air Miles points that she had to get a new iPad, and for doing some stuff with like artistic stuff related to that, and then I used some of mine to get the like pencil to go with it.
Nice.
And I'm actually kind of excited for that to arrive, to mess around a little bit, because I like the idea of how in some of those apps, I think like Procreate or whatever, if you like draw a line, there's like a tool you can use to then like make that line straight. Stuff like that, which I feel like would help like balance my like frustration with my lack of skill, to be like, no, okay, clean that up a little bit. And then so I'm excited to mess around with that a little bit. I think it'll be cool.
Dude, the iPad and Procreate is amazing. It's such a powerful tool. It's just when I had one and I experimented with it, I found that the depth of the program is so vast. There's like quite a big learning curve to figure everything out. I've seen some people create on there and what they can do is just so amazing. It could be good for you because you like tech stuff and you're just getting into it. So it could be the perfect fusion.
Totally. Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
Yeah.
That's a good goal. I like that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're at your goal now.
Yeah. My goal of the week is, I've had this like ever growing list of things I want to get done kind of around the house, like just random stuff as you do. I want to clean up that area and get those things into bins, or get our like kitchen knives sharpened or whatever. And as time has kind of gone on and you get distracted or busy with other things, that list will kind of continue to grow. So I've got a bit of time on my hands, so I really want to focus on knocking off as many of the things off of that like random to-do list as I can this week. For one, as I kind of mentioned before with my mood boosters, that like feeling of achieving something. I think not only will it be good for me to kind of do some of this more physically random stuff, get my body moving a little bit, but I think I'll also get like a nice mental mood booster from checking these things off the old to-do list and feeling like I've accomplished some stuff. So that's my kind of random, but my goal for this next week.
Amazing. Well, I'm glad that we could make this happen. That was super fun. I hope we were on track enough and that you and our listeners have some simplified bro science advice to improve your physical fitness.
Yeah, man, for sure. I know. I appreciate it. Cool, buddy. We'll enjoy the rest of your trip. We'll talk more.
Talk soon. Bye.
Okay, bye.